Grand Prix 55 years ago. Well, Silverstone can't compare to the modern new circuits in China and Malaysia. But when it comes to wheel-to-wheel competition on the track, this place delivers. Louise Goodman and Ted Kravitz will keep you informed from the pits. Your commentators for the Foster's British Grand Prix, Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim, and a very warm welcome to everybody to a very sunny Silverstone. Beautiful weather, no traffic problems. Silverstone is really losing its charm. Well, it's certainly a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere here. A huge crowd of people are here, 100,000 paying spectators, almost 50,000 corporate guests, all crammed into this former airfield in Northamptonshire to see what hopefully will be a tremendous motor race this afternoon. This track, incidentally, recently voted the third most popular amongst race fans all around the world, after Monaco and Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. And to agree with that, as Jim said, it always does provide great racing. Championship, the leader Fernando Alonso, though, perhaps put it most eloquently yesterday when talking of the London bombings, when he said sport can only do so much, a limited amount really, at a time like this to help, but what we can do, we will do, and that is to put on a good show. Certainly everybody here will say amen to that. The British public, I have to say, have responded magnificently to the tragic events of Thursday in London. They're here to enjoy themselves. The sun is shining. Let's hope we get a great spectacle. Well, although Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen are contesting the World Championship, we've yet to actually see them go wheel to wheel on the racetrack so far this season. We could well see it here this afternoon. Alonso's on pole and Raikkonen down in 12th on the grid. Might not seem like a likely prospect, but the McLaren certainly has the edge on pace around this racetrack. It won't be like France last weekend, where Alonso was able to run away and hide from pole position. Jenson Button, you can see there, keeping British hopes alive on the front row of the grid. After one of the very best qualifying laps of his career, he was absolutely made up yesterday afternoon by that lap. He's got fuel in the car. He said to his father John, there's nothing more I could have squeezed out of this car. And he has put all the pressure of the week and the media attention and the expectation of the crowd to the back of his mind and went out there and delivered, as did all of the big names in Formula One. So Raikkonen, Alonso, second half of the Grand Prix for sure. Raikkonen will come through. Early part of the Grand Prix, Martin, I fancy that Juan Montoya in the McLaren is going to give Alonso and Button something to think about. So we're looking at a race that could evolve in several phases over the course of the 60 laps here this afternoon.
I think there's no doubt about it. Raikkonen's ultimate result this afternoon can be affected by a lot of other drivers in terms of, are they going to hold the pack up? Can he get through them quite quickly? Can they stay reasonably close to Alonso? If Button could get in ahead of Alonso into turn one, there are an awful lot of happy people around this racetrack, but I think that would play a key role in this afternoon's race. Also, I think everybody from, say, Sato in 7th through to Clean Mass, even in 16th, if they want to score points this afternoon, they're going to have to hustle, particularly in the early stages of the Grand Prix, to a big yawn, a nervous yawn going on inside that crash helmet there from Juan Pablo Montoya. So I think there's going to be two separate races going on by and large. It's for the podium and very much then for the points, involving, as I say, the top 16 runners here this afternoon. Montoya must be looking good for a Grand Prix victory here too. Surely he's got more fuel on board than almost anybody else on that grid, other than, I suspect, Kimi Raikkonen. And let's hope we don't see Jenson peeling off into the pits too early for fuel. But he seemed confident. He was so surprised with his pole position. He just pushing the McLaren back there so he can lay more rubber down. He'll switch the traction control off, spin the wheels like crazy. It'll be a big plume of blue smoke behind him. But Raikkonen wanting then to give himself the best slingshot. Now, the good thing about the Silverstone grid is it's got equal grip pretty much, both sides, certainly more so than many other tracks around the world. You can get an electric getaway from the inside, our left-hand side, as we're looking at them there.
Well, one of the things that Raikkonen's going to have to deal with as we get ready for the parade lap, the heat haze, 45 degrees the track temperature and 27 the air temperature. There is Raikkonen. Is a thing called field spread, because it's a very fast racetrack. It's a single line around a lot of the fast corners as they head off on their parade lap, rather slow to react, most of the drivers. And what that means is the way that the field spreads out as they all filter their way through the single line through Beckett's, for example, Stowe, the fast corners around this racetrack. And just looking back to last year, over the first 10 laps, the car in 12th position was 33 seconds behind the race leader after 10 laps. So if Raikkonen is not able to make an impression to move forward, as Thiago Monteiro there brings up the back of the field, if Raikkonen can't move forward in the early crucial laps, he's going to find himself 20-30 seconds behind the race leaders after around 10 or 12 laps, and that will give you the kind of mountain he's going to have to climb from there. So tremendous amount of excitement at all layers throughout this grid. Here's David Coulthard. We haven't really talked very much about him. He had a reasonable qualifying lap yesterday in the Red Bull Racing, powered by the Cosworth engine, still the only engine maker not to suffer an engine failure during the Grand Prix weekend. They're still following the old 2x2 race system. Everybody else has lost one at some point, but Coulthard 13th on the grid and hopeful of some World Championship points this afternoon. That you can see is the Constructors' table. 24 points the margin between Alonso and Raikkonen going into this Grand Prix, so Alonso will be the championship leader whatever happens going away from here as Flavio Briatore makes his way back. It's a fast track Silverstone, 144 miles an hour, the average lap speed, despite one or two slow corners in the final part of the lap. An F1 car covers about a mile every 20 seconds around this racetrack. There is the man with the big responsibility, Charlie Whiting, the FIA's race director. And that's Jenson Button's father, John, who I was mentioning before, with Jules Kopinski just to the left there, just out of frame, and Jenson's personal assistant. A very nervous man, John. He was leaning against the garage wall smoking a cigarette as I walked up here to come to the commentary box.
He's lived it, hasn't he? He's lived every moment from the first kart race and getting up 5, 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning, travelling all over the country to watching Jenson on the front row of the grid. Not for the first time, but obviously a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure on Jenson's shoulders this afternoon. Anyway, I was just thinking Raikkonen's best chance, I hate to say this in many respects, but his best chance this afternoon is if Montoya can get up and hustle Alonso too. So we know how fast that Renault is off the line. Now they're just trying to pump some heat into those rear tyres. I was very surprised how few cars drilled it away from the line. There's a bit of rubber down on the start line from previous races, the GP2 in particular. Kimi Raikkonen having to make his way past a car. It's quite unusual on this lap, but as long as you don't fall to the tail of the field, you can regain a few positions.
Takuma Sato seems to be stuck out of position. Indeed he is. He's at the back of the grid. He's not even made it onto the grid hatchings yet, so new situation for this year. Any cars with problems get pushed off the grid. They can then start from the pit lane if they can get the car going. Charlie Whiting is aware of the situation. The car appears to be stuck in gear at the moment. Marshall's running onto the racetrack to try and get it to move.
He may have to abort this start, but now he's going for it.
He's going for it. So, off the start line, turn up the sound and enjoy. 20 Formula 1 cars go racing at Silverstone. And down to the first corner they fly, and it's edgy, very edgy stuff indeed between the Renault of Alonso and Montoya's McLaren. They're side by side, going down to Beckett. Montoya is alongside, and Montoya's through. What a great start by the Colombian into Beckett. Just listen to the crowd. And the Renault drops to second place with Button third. Ferrari there starting very strongly, presuming that's Rubens Barrichello, Fisichella there as well, as they try and get Sato's car out of the way. They're moving very slowly up the pit straight. Here's Kimi Raikkonen making a move on Ralf Schumacher. Already then up to 8th place. What a tremendous start here at Silverstone. Montoya leads, Alonso second, Button third, Barrichello's fourth, 5th is Fisichella, 6th is Trulli, 7th Michael Schumacher, 8th Ralf is Raikkonen, and 9th is Ralf Schumacher.
I'd imagine McLaren will now watch and see how quickly Raikkonen can make his way through the field. Michael Schumacher will be his next target and victim, but Montoya doesn't care a jot about that. He's on his way. He's not about to try and back up the pack, is he? Montoya, Alonso, Button, Barrichello 4th, Fisichella up to 5th, and they're still struggling to get the safety cars out. They've only just got Sato out of the pit straight, and the safety car picked the field up. I wonder if Charlie, he probably couldn't see Sato's car. It was beyond the grid, round the corner. And I was a little bit surprised they started the race. He probably also expected them to clear that car a little bit more quickly, but it was an awful long way to push it. And he had to deploy the safety car. That's taken the sting out of it, but of course, they all have to hold position. There is Sato. They'll fire him up, and he's a lap behind already. He's been so unlucky this year.
Just in the interest of clarity, Sato's car was pushed through a red gate, which is at the very beginning of the pit straight, underneath the podium, about 10 or 15 seconds before the safety car led the field through. So it was obviously a fairly marginal call. It wasn't clear exactly what was going to happen with Sato's car being stuck gear around the corner, out of sight of race director Charlie Whiting. There he is, coming down from the gantry. That's why he had to throw the safety car, but I don't think it'll be out for very long. In fact, it's coming in at the end of this lap, and the guy who is most benefiting from this is undoubtedly Kimi Raikkonen.
Such a pit. The driver takes that pain of the engine problem. It's 2 consecutive weekends we haven't seen Raikkonen and Alonso head-to-head, as they surely would be right now. And we saw Raikkonen really struggling. He wasn't even full throttle through Bridge Corner in the turbulent air coming off the back of that Ferrari of Michael Schumacher.
Well, I was talking to one or two of the drivers, and they say that when you follow another car like this, the turbulent air, you can feel it from 100 metres behind. As we take another look at the start.
Jensen away a little bit tardily on our left-hand side, and already Montoya on the offensive. Coulthard got away poorly too at the back of the to the middle of the field, but ended up very near the back.
Well, he's at Villeneuve, and a little bit later on we saw him get past Ralf Schumacher on the way down to Stowe Corner, so you can see 3 cars by the time he got to Stowe on the first half lap for Kimi Raikkonen. Took him up to 8th place, where he now is.
Well, we saw the Ferrari was very poor through these last 2 corners, but it's he's always going to be on the throttle a car length later than Michael Schumacher, and they're all so fast down the pit straight. There is no braking zone really down into turn 1, so you've got to be alongside as you head towards the braking zone.
Just before we saw that restart, I was mentioning the turbulent air issue. As I say, 100 metres apparently, you can feel the air being disturbed. These new generation aerodynamics on the cars make it very, very difficult to overtake, particularly through these high-speed corners here at Silverstone. That Beckett's complex, they carry around about 130 miles an hour through the middle of that switchback, left-right change of direction. And it's really very difficult to follow another car through. Bit of a tail out there for Juan Montoya. He's trying to make a break. Alonso is pegging the gap though. Montoya took 7/10 out of him lap before last, but Alonso has closed him down. He looks like he's setting the fastest sector times at the moment, not wanting the McLaren to get away. And Jenson Button is doing a splendid job as well, holding on in 3rd place with Rubens Barrichello there in the Ferrari in 4th. Did a more solid job yesterday in qualifying than teammate Michael Schumacher, which was the platform from which to mount the assault here today. Raikkonen now 9.5 seconds behind team leader, and you can see already that Montoya's having to work a bit on that wheel, isn't he? Yeah,
that really surprises me how much the car's sliding all around the racetrack actually, but they're scampering away. I'm kind of a bit surprised that although why would Montoya want to play this game? He's got his own race, his own championship, but expected maybe to just be backing the pack up a little bit, because Raikkonen is now 9 seconds adrift and we're on lap 6. The field spread you were talking about beginning to develop now, James, and once again they're stuck behind Trulli. Trulli tends to have a tremendous qualifying pace in the Toyota, but not the race pace he needs. He's in the 1:23s. No, he's in the 1:24s actually, and he's just backing Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen right up in 7th and 8th.
Yeah, 2 seconds a lap slower than Montoya and Alonso in front. That's what Trulli is. You're looking from Raikkonen's position forward to Michael Schumacher, and then in front of him again was Jarno Trulli. So Schumacher will also be very, very keen to get past Trulli. It was he was a factor in the outcome of the French Grand Prix, and I'm slightly surprised because yesterday after qualifying, Trulli was saying, yeah, good lap here, but I do believe, as you can see, Raikkonen get very close to Schumacher there into, I believe, Stowe Corner. There you are.
And that would have caught him out. I mean, I think it would have caught anybody out. Michael was so slow on the apex, and Kimi had, what, 30 miles an hour more into the apex of the corner, had to get out of it and ended up running wide. Shows you how fast he can be when he gets some clear air.
Trulli was saying that he thought his race pace would be stronger, but still a couple of seconds a lap slower, so the race developing very interestingly indeed here. Montoya leading Alonso, Jenson Button still in 3rd place. Welcome back to the Silverstone racetrack in Northamptonshire. We're in the heart of Britain's motorsport valley. Over 100,000 people employed in the motorsport industry around here, contributing over £5 billion a year to the British economy. Christian Klein there went off track, I think, and looks like he's been fighting anyway with this Williams of Mark Webber. Here's another look at exactly what happened. They've been having a scrap for a while. Looks like Klein got past, but then is that Webber or Heidfeld? It's Heidfeld possibly diving past him. Hard to tell from the rear.
Yeah, I suspect it might have been Heidfeld taking position, but Coulthard would have been just just a fraction behind that if he had have done. So Klein has been threatening to have a bit of a lunge at Mark Webber for a few laps now. When it finally happened, looks like it went horribly wrong. Montoya's lead just 1.4 seconds. He's being matched by Alonso. Button just a tenth slower now. He's in the same 1 minute 22 second bracket, but he's got Barrichello keeping him very honest. Worst case scenario for Kimi Raikkonen. Truly a noon run, it seems, again in the Toyota. Schumacher can do nothing about it in the Ferrari, and he seems to almost brake test him in the middle of Stowe. His car's so slow, and I think that's an attempt to keep Kimi well back into the braking zone in the first part of Club Vale, I think they call it.
Here they go, the three of them, as they have been, 6th, 7th and 8th, but losing so much time. Raikkonen now 17 seconds behind race leader Montoya, and the frustration, I've no doubt, building in that cockpit. I know a number of teams plan their fuel strategy for qualifying in the opening part of the race around what they think Jarno Trulli will do, and he's a tremendous qualifier and is taking nothing away from him as a race driver, but this Toyota does seem to perform more strongly in qualifying than it does in the race, and not for the first time. Queue forming behind Trulli is affecting men coming through, Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. Here we are then, riding on board with Raikkonen into the left-hander at Brooklands. Now the right at Luffield, building the speed up to around 100 miles an hour, crossing the start-finish line at about 160 as they exit Woodcote Corner. You see Trulli's acceleration in the Toyota's good out of the slow corners. Ferrari can't get close to him, and Ted Kravitz has some news for us.
I'm down at VAR, and they're a bit confused about Sato. He had an electronics problem that theoretically isn't possible to actually happen, so they need to get the car back and have a look at it. But good position for Jenson Button, because Raikkonen is contained, as you said, by Trulli, and Fisichella, the other threat to Button, is well behind Barrichello.
Yes, 20 runners still in the Grand Prix. Then Sato, as Ted said, has rejoined the race. He's a lap down, lapping in a position with a speed that would put him up there in 5th or 6th, just to rub salt in the wounds for him. And this is Raikkonen slipping, sliding around in the dirty air, the hot and turbulent air that's been worked very hard over the surfaces of that Ferrari and Michael Schumacher's. But what's interesting to me is both, I know you always get it like a concertina effect, that's Carter Kane pulling out of the race for Jordan. The factory just 500 metres across the road here, the first retirement of the day then. What a shame for him.
Yeah, Jordan, the local team, quite literally. BAR also based just down the road here at Brackley. Jordan are the closest to the Silverstone racetrack, so they'll be able to push the car back to the garage to figure out what's wrong with it. Carter Kane retiring from 16th place there. He was ahead of his teammate Montero. As we take a look into the Red Bull pits, we've seen Christian Klein go off the racetrack in his scrap with the two Williams of Webber and Heidfeld. It was indeed Nick Heidfeld we saw on that replay shot, diving past the Red Bull just a few moments ago. Klein is now right on his tail, and it looks like the Red Bull has a slight edge and pace over the Williams here. So Coulthard is now joining the party as well.
Klein pits. Klein pits then. It's very early in the Grand Prix. I'd be surprised if that's really a fully scheduled stop. But has he knocked a few bits and pieces off the underneath the car, affecting the aerodynamic balance? And they're choosing to stop anyway. It certainly lost some lap time, but first man in the pits then for the afternoon. And just a little bit of a twist on the front wing to try and change the aerodynamic balance. That's already put him out of kilter.
Yeah, this is only lap 12 of 60. We're expecting the front runners to come in anytime from about lap 18 through to 25. And that's Montero, 2 Jordans out in the space of a single lap. Once again, we have yellow flags waving down at turn 6 now. And this is for Thiago Montero, who had an engine change after qualifying yesterday. Jordan using the Toyota customer engine, of course. And I don't know what the problem is for Montero, but both Jordans out, and the race is only 12 laps old.
Now the gap is down to 1 second, Alonso to Montoya, which you're looking at right now. And, well, they're still lapping very quickly, so I don't think it's a question of Montoya slowing down and backing up. It's just Alonso finding more and more speed. But you do wonder if McLaren or will think of playing a bit of an ace card here to bring their man Raikkonen. Raikkonen's got to keep in touch with Alonso today for the World Championship. I know there's a long way to go, but he's really got to do something about that lead today if he can.
Certainly does, but don't forget what happened in Canada. Montoya on a tremendous charge, looked like he was going to win the race. Then the safety car came out, and McLaren, by their own admission, made a terrible mistake not bringing Montoya in. Totally compromised his race that ended up with him being disqualified after he drove out of the pits with the red light on. So he is driving for himself here this afternoon as well as for the team. He said yesterday, I'm going for the victory tomorrow at Silverstone. Raikkonen wants to get past Michael Schumacher. The frustration builds there. This is lap 13 of 60. Lap 16 of the British Grand Prix. You ride on board with Kimi Raikkonen. Michael Schumacher is in front of us as we plunge into Copse Corner at 160 miles an hour in 5th gear, down towards Maggots, 180 miles an hour before a little lift, down a gear, through the Beckett's complex, 130 miles an hour, cars swinging left, right, left, and then out onto the hangar straight. Raikkonen struggling a little bit, you see, in the dirty air of the car in front, which is Michael Schumacher. Jarno Trulli is in front of him. This is the battle for 6th place. It's also a battle which is potentially costing Raikkonen the victory here at Silverstone. He so desperately needs to get himself back on terms in the World Championship with Fernando Alonso. He is now 26 seconds behind race leader Juan Montoya in the McLaren. Alonso is second, Button is third, Barrichello fourth, Fisichella fifth, and Trulli in sixth at the head of this little queue. And in a way, if you're McLaren, you've got to make a bit of a decision here. There's a long way to go in the race, but Montoya taking points off Alonso at the front is a good thing. You certainly want Raikkonen to come through as much as you can. We think he's carrying a little bit more fuel than the others, but tactically it's going to be fascinating for McLaren. And Louise Goodman has some news for us.
Yeah, I've been down at the Red Bull garage. We saw Christian Kien coming to make an early stop. I wasn't expecting him that early, neither were the team under normal circumstances, but we did see him have a bit of an off-track excursion. So the team decided to react to that, bring him in early, change his strategy. Whilst he was in, they made an adjustment to the front wing because he wasn't terribly happy with the balance of the car, but he still seems to be struggling a bit, still running wide on a couple of corners, so they obviously haven't managed to correct that for him.
Yes, and thank you for that, Louise. The BAR that you saw being passed, obviously not Button, that's Sato, who started a lap behind with the Gremlins going to the grid, just moving out of the way for the leaders. We've got a big straight fight now between Montoya and Alonso, it seems, for victory in this Grand Prix. Jensen just keeping them on as he's 5.8 seconds adrift of Alonso and still in play. But Barrichello's going well in the Ferrari in 4th place too. Fisichella, second, Renault's 5th. Trulli backing them up. He's a second a lap off the pace, backing up Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen into his teammate Ralf Schumacher in the second Toyota, and Ferrari getting ready for one of their cars.
Christian Albers has got some flapping bodywork. You can just see it on the right hand side of the side pod as he comes in for his pit stop. It's on the other side of the car. Looks like Ferrari are getting ready indeed. Here we go for Barrichello. He dives into the pits. This is lap 18 of 60, so Barrichello was running relatively light in qualifying yesterday. That means Trulli, Michael Schumacher, Raikkonen all move forward. It's all good news for Raikkonen and Schumacher, but they really want Trulli to be pitting in the not too distant future as Barrichello goes out again.
I've got a feeling that Raikkonen will be able to get past the Toyota if he could only clear Michael. Normally the two Ferraris would come in at a similar time, so maybe Michael Schumacher could be in shortly. I did hear they might well be 3-stopping this afternoon, which demonstrates even more difficulty with their qualifying pace. But as Ruben said to me on the line, I think our tyres are going to come good towards the end of the Grand Prix. I expect us to be there. So they've short-fueled him. I wonder if they're looking to on the track position. But Jensen should be okay there. He's 2-stopping.
Well, it looked like Barrichello rejoined behind Ralf Schumacher, who was 9th. Jacques Villeneuve is in there as well, in that area in 10th place. So Barrichello is somewhere around the top 10. The computer will tell us in a few moments' time. There you can see the top 8 then at the moment. And it's interesting on pace terms because Montoya set 2 fastest laps, trying to open up a bit of a gap. Now Alonso is responding as well. He's just set the fastest first sector of the race so far, and indeed the fastest lap, a 1:21.8 for Fernando Alonso, halves the margin to Juan Montoya. He's saying to Montoya, no son, you're not getting away from me. I want this win every bit as badly as you do here this afternoon. A titanic scrap at the front for the victory of the British Grand Prix. Jenson Button's doing a super job in 3rd place. Lost a little ground early on, but his lap times are comparable with Montoya's now in the low 1:22s. Also Fisichella is lapping at that sort of pace too in 4th place. And then Trulli, as we said, is well, he's a second a lap slower, and that's bad news for Schumacher and Raikkonen.
I'm expecting the front runners in, I don't know, somewhere around lap 22, 24, something like that is our best guesstimate. Montoya doing a great job out there this afternoon, keeping Alonso at bay. And here's the other battle then. The Toyota truly beginning to pull a gap out to Michael Schumacher, and Raikkonen just can't get closer than that half second.
Well, what's interesting to me is that Alonso was really downplaying his chances going into this Grand Prix. At the test at Silverstone a few weeks ago, the McLaren was so much faster than the Renault, and Alonso was making a great deal of that, saying, listen, if I get a podium out of this weekend, I'll be happy. I think he'll be very happy indeed after 18 laps to be only 7/10 of a second behind Juan Montoya. And if he's got a little bit more fuel in the car, which is possible, we'll find out in the next few laps, then he's game on to have a real crack at winning this one, especially as Raikkonen seems to be, well, he's going to really have his work cut out in the second half of the Grand Prix after the bad start he's had.
Well, I'm sure they'll be telling him also he's 29 seconds ahead of arch rival for the championship, Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen has very much been sidelined now, I think, for victory this afternoon. I'm still looking forward to some fireworks when he gets some clear air to bring him, haul himself up into the better points-paying positions. And of course, still a long way to go in terms of reliability, driver error, tripping over other people. But he'll be getting well fed up with the back view of that Ferrari.
Well, another thing that's going to help Alonso is that Fisichella is in 4th place as Heidfeld pits from 13th. Villeneuve also coming out into the pits, and so is David Coulthard as well. So Villeneuve was 11th, Heidfeld 13th, and Coulthard 14th, the first round of scheduled stops. These are the men that carried a little bit less fuel in qualifying yesterday than the others. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Oh, drama at Sauber. Jacques Villeneuve has knocked over his fuel man. He tried to go too early. We think there might have been a little twitch of the guy with the lollipop, but Villeneuve tried to go too early. He knocked down his fuel mechanic. He went down, hit the ground, but he's up again. But, oh, God, drama down here. The doctor's just checking him out, seeing if the fuel guy's all right, but he is.
There we go with the replay of that, and he'd obviously tried a little bit earlier to get away, had Jacques Villeneuve. He's lost position now to Heidfeld, Coulthard. Button pits from 3rd place. There is Jenson Button, but Villeneuve losing 3 or 4 places there.
Now the crucial thing for Button is that Rubens Barrichello came in and was short fuel by Ferrari, so is he going to be able to leapfrog Jenson Button as I said around the pit stop? Coming down the pit lane, you can see now the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen as well. Schumacher is trying very, very hard. There is Barrichello, so it didn't work. Ferrari didn't have enough time. Even the short fuel system didn't quite work, so Barrichello stays behind Jenson Button.
Truly pits then. Raikkonen needed Michael Schumacher to pit at the same time. Mark Webber in 2 for Williams, so they've just crept into the 20-lap sector of the race. But yeah, Jenson for sure stayed ahead of Rubens Barrichello, and quite a long way ahead, and it was a good stop for him. He was also got back out in front of Ralf Schumacher, so he's a pit stop ahead of him, and the people ahead of him would be on light fuel and about to pit anyway, so that worked nicely for Jenson Button.
Now the guy I was mentioning before that Alonso's going to be relying on here is Fisichella, because he is between himself and Kimi Raikkonen. Fisichella is running very strongly here this afternoon. We haven't seen him, but he's been 4th on the racetrack. He's now obviously behind, he's in front of Button, so he's now up to 3rd, yet to make his first stop of the afternoon. Fisichella lapping quicker than the 2 in front of him. He's 12 seconds behind the race leaders, so potentially he too, considering that he's driving a Renault, is a factor here this afternoon, as Coulthard in 14th tries to resist Villeneuve 15th. And that's the race leaders coming up to lap them. Juan Montoya coming up to lap Villeneuve and Coulthard after just 21 laps. Ralf Schumacher pits from 8th, final points paying position. In he comes, and you can see Villeneuve trying once again to get past Coulthard. These two have had a few scraps over the years, great friends they are. They travel the circuits of Europe together and they'll park their motorhomes next door to each other, with Jenson Button as well, part of a little corral in the campsite. Very exclusive campsite it is as well. McLaren ready for one of their 2 drivers. This is lap 22. They've gone a little further than many people in the paddock imagine, and into the pits goes the race leader, Juan Montoya. In he comes then.
And that's important, though, because just ahead of Alonso, and he'll be about 2 seconds a lap faster than Coulthard and Villeneuve, who are squabbling just in front of him. He may lose time on this next lap or 2, or the in-lap, indeed, if he's stopping this time around. That's cost him dearly. Fisichella has blitzed the fastest lap of the race. Montoya gets away. Almost sounded like he was trying to stall, didn't it? But he looks like he's going to go out into beautiful clear air, and Alonso surely is going to lose time behind Villeneuve and Coulthard.
Well, here's Alonso losing some more time. David Coulthard taking a little while to get past. So Montoya rejoined comfortably in front of Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. Jarno Trulli pitted, we saw. He's dropped down to 10th place, so he's out of the way as Villeneuve has another go at David Coulthard. Side by side they are, and Villeneuve very uncompromising. Coulthard has to run wide, and Villeneuve makes the pass stick. Great move.
Yeah, good effort there from Jacques up the inside, had a better run out. Coulthard compromised by allowing the leader through, which he's obliged to do with the blue flags. And Jacques punished him for that by getting a cleaner run out of Club Corner and a better top speed up to the Abbey chicane. Fisichella still flying, he's going well at this stage. Here's a replay then up to Abbey, about 180 miles an hour. DC tries to squeeze him, Jacques having none of it. I thought he might lock his wheels and go straight on there, but no problem. Alonso in.
Race leader into the pits, Fernando Alonso. He's gone a lap longer than Montoya. It was less than a second behind him when they made the stops. Montoya's stop was neat and tidy, 8.8 seconds. This one is slightly slower, and Montoya, where is he? There's Alonso coming out of the pit lane. Here comes Montoya across the start-finish line on the right of your screens. Alonso on the left. Who's going to get into Maggots first? Looks like it'll be Montoya as Alonso gets back up to speed. They're side by side. It's a tremendous scrap as it was on the opening lap. And Alonso not quite enough. Just a fraction of a second less on the pit stop, and he'd be in the lead. As it is, Montoya scythes in front of him, as he did on the opening lap, to regain the lead of the British Grand Prix. Cracking stuff.
They were obviously watching the red arrows earlier on, weren't they, with all the formation stuff. That was amazing driving from both of them. And, well, just having to pass to Coulthard and I think Villeneuve cost him about a second on the way in, cost him the chance of the Grand Prix. So Fisichella now leads this Grand Prix. Montoya had the inertia, had the momentum, although it looked as if Alonso had got a head start, didn't it, coming out of the pit lane. Montoya comes out of that corner with 170, 180 miles an hour, and he just managed to carry it through. But Alonso will get another chance.
So, on the racetrack, the leader at the moment, on lap 24, is Giancarlo Fisichella, but he has yet to make a stop. So the net leader of the Grand Prix, effectively, people who have made their stops, is Juan Montoya with Fernando Alonso behind him. And Fisichella was about 10 seconds behind that pair before they made their pit stop. So we expect him to resume, depending on what kind of pace he's had and they've had relative, he should be about 8 or 9 seconds behind them when he makes his stop. Into the pits comes the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. He went 25 laps into this Grand Prix on the fuel with which he qualified. A couple of little mistakes yesterday in qualifying, harmed his grid slot. His body language this weekend hasn't been great, Michael Schumacher. He hasn't been very comfortable in his skin, has he, this weekend? He's been signing autographs and good grace generally with the public, I have to say, but you can tell he just doesn't like the situation that he's in. Kimi Raikkonen, I have to tell you, is currently up into 4th place, 21 seconds behind race leader Fisichella, but 3 seconds behind Montoya, and yet Raikkonen's still got to make a pit stop, so that's how much time he's lost. There you can see Raikkonen has closed right up. It's not 3 seconds anymore, it's just a matter of a few car lengths. Alonso does not want to let Montoya get away from him.
Now Alonso looking threatening, having a feint up into the Abbey chicane, and the problem for Raikkonen now is he can't pull out those quick laps he needs, because just ahead of him his arch rival, but freshly refueled, Alonso and his teammate Montoya, and they will probably be significantly slower at this stage of the Grand Prix. Fisichella pits from the lead at the end of lap 25.
Exactly right, Martin. I mean, Raikkonen wants to be doing laps in the low 121s. Instead, he's doing laps in the 22s, stuck behind the heavily fueled Montoya and Alonso. Fisichella rejoins after his pit stop. He led briefly then here at Silverstone. He went quite a long way into the Grand Prix, didn't he? 26 laps. Still Raikkonen yet to make a stop.
And this is Raikkonen all over the back of Alonso. He's a pit stop adrift. We don't know how many times he's stopping this afternoon, of course. But Raikkonen then now in the dirty air of the Renault. But he was much faster through Copse Corner, and he'll surely be faster with less fuel down the back straight. He's in the slipstream now, and Alonso goes to cover the inside line, but he's no need to trip over Raikkonen, no need to give him too hard a time. To drop out of the Grand Prix there would be a crazy thing to do, and smartly Alonso, old head on young shoulders, let him go through.
That was for pride. Kimi Raikkonen did that for pride, no question whatsoever. He knows the situation he's in. The start has compromised him badly. Being stuck behind Trulli has compromised him badly. He's got a very light car. Alonso's full of fuel. Alonso, as Martin said, very intelligently didn't make a fight of it. Psychologically, Raikkonen will have known that he's gone wheel to wheel and gone past him, but we all know the circumstances in which he did it. And look, Alonso offered no resistance.
Well, he parked his car in the middle and said, I'm going to make it as hard as I can for you, but I'm not going to lose a wheel up against you today, mate. Amigo, or whatever he's saying inside the cockpit there. But significantly, it's put Alonso a long way behind Montoya now. And finally, Raikkonen pits then. So he did not get those fast laps in he needed. Ted is down there.
Oh, and he absolutely did need them, but let's see, a good stop will help his cause. But they had to make a very late switch on the fuel rigs. That's strange. We'll look into that in a moment. No massive changes. Montoya put on more front downforce, but Raikkonen fairly happy with the car. But by the way, bad news for Button. I believe that Fisichella jumped him at those stops.
Well, Michael Schumacher has just gone past us. He is in 7th place, and Raikkonen is going back out in front of him. So Raikkonen rejoins, I believe, in 6th place. Yes, indeed, there he is. Montoya leading. Alonso 2nd, very close behind him. 3rd is Fisichella. 4th is Jenson Button. 5th is Barrichello. And 6th now Raikkonen. So he jumped Michael Schumacher and Trulli, thanks to his strategy of running a little bit longer. But he lost time behind Montoya and Alonso. And that is the net result. This is lap 27. Approaching half distance in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Juan Montoya leads the Grand Prix by 3 seconds from Fernando Alonso, with Renault's Giancarlo Fisichella has jumped Jenson Button in the pit stops. Fisichella up to 3rd, Button down to 4th. I'm delighted to say that the BAR sporting director Gilles de Ferran, himself no mean racing driver, winner of the Indy 500 of course, now running the team, is joining us from the pit wall. Gilles, thanks very much for joining us. And Jenson losing out to Fisi there.
Yeah, that was the thing. Fisi he went a little bit longer than we did, and it was able to put a few fast laps just before his pit stop, and unfortunately went by us.
Gio, hello, it's Martin here. What bothers me is I think Jenson, you got some damage limitation to it. Jenson could be under pressure from Barrichello and Raikkonen. You might be struggling for 6th unless he can find a bit more pace.
Well, I think that's, Martin, that's all we can do really, is go as fast as we can here and see how things play out to the end of the race.
Okay, good stuff. What happened to Takuma on the start line?
We're not so sure. The car stalled coming into the pits here, and unfortunately we lost a whole lap. So all you can do is keep running and see where we end up.
What did you make of the decision at the start with the safety car? Obviously Takuma's car was being pushed out of the way. It was a safety car went out even after the car was pushed away, but I guess Charlie Whiting, the race director, had no alternative.
Yeah, I guess he had no alternative. So just got it really didn't change much for us at all.
So what are you saying to Jenson then now?
Just keep cool, and keep doing his job. He's doing a great job so far, running very consistently, and he's just got to keep working hard until the end of the race.
Well, the lap times certainly look very good, don't they, Gilles? He's lapping in the 1:22s, but giving away perhaps half a second to the Renaults and the McLarens.
Yeah, the cars ahead a few tenths faster than what we are, and that's our pace right now, and we got nothing to do apart from drive as fast as we can. But Jenson is doing a very good job. His laps are very, very consistent, which is a good sign.
Do you think tyre wear could be a factor towards the end of the race, Gilles?
I think that can play a factor towards the end of the race. I guess we'll see where everybody stacks up on the last 10 or 15 laps.
Thanks, Gilles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gilles de Ferran, sporting director of BAR Honda, for joining us from the pit wall. Always great to hear from the horse's mouth during the course of the Grand Prix. Jenson Button certainly pushing the car as hard as he can. Qualified it on the front row of the grid. Now running in 4th place with Rubens Barrichello right behind him, and then Kimi Raikkonen closing down very quickly indeed on them, about a second a lap in 6th place. We're riding on board with Jacques Villeneuve, looking back from our 13th position to Christian Klien, who's had a few incidents here this afternoon, gone off the track a couple of times, been in the pits a little bit early to try and sort it out. Klien in 14th, and 15th is David Coulthard, ahead of 47 seconds ahead of Thiago Monteiro. We thought we'd lost both Jordans in this Grand Prix. Monteiro is in fact still running in 16th place, ahead of Christian Albers and Patrick Friesacker, the two Minardis. Takuma Sato is also still circulating, lapping in the same sort of pace as his teammate Button, but unfortunately for him he lost so much time with missing the start. He is dead last in 19th place.
Montoya's lead creeping up to 4.7 seconds now. He's certainly happier, isn't he, since he's filled it up with fuel. It's odd, as soon as Alonso got passed by Raikkonen, although he was effectively behind him with the pit stops, Alonso's pace has not been that strong. He's got to regroup somehow and just understand. But of course we also know Montoya made a wing change during his pit stop, so it seems like he's happier with the balance of the car too. Quite a reasonable breeze, again into the tail of the car, turning into Beckett's and Stowe, two critical areas where the car is really leaning on all of its aerodynamics and mechanical grip, and a tailwind takes some of that away.
Fisichella is, on the quiet Martin, doing a very, very good job here this afternoon. We've not seen a great deal of him, but he managed, as we said, to leapfrog Jenson Button in the first round of pit stops. He went longer on the fuel than many people did, and I wonder if he's going to go a little bit longer on the fuel. I think he is, a couple of laps longer than teammate Alonso. He's only a couple of seconds behind him. Here we are on board with Giancarlo Fisichella, who's playing himself into contention to actually overtake his teammate for the second round of stops. If he can carry on at this kind of pace, he's actually going quicker at the moment times than his teammate. As Barrichello pits again on lap 33.
That'll take the pressure off Jenson, and with the Ferrari pitting so quickly again for its second stop, because he was just a few tenths of a second adrift of Button, so that takes away a major pressure. Jenson's big problem though is Kimi Raikkonen is homing in on him at over a second a lap now in the second of the McLarens. So Jenson is 8.8 adrift of Fisichella in third. He's in fourth, but Raikkonen is closing in.
Well, it looks like Barrichello's three-stopping here this afternoon, which doesn't appear to be really working for him, because that stop has dropped him back down now to 7th or 8th place. I think he got out around about Jarno Trulli. So Barrichello, who was in quite a promising position early on a different strategy from the others, he's stopped twice, everyone else has stopped once. And that's good news for Jenson Button, because that moves him back up into 4th place. Still holding on is Jenson Button, lapping as hard as he can. This is what it feels like then, out of the complex. Huge crowd on the left, they're blowing their air horns for him as he came onto the grid. Here is Takuma Sato in 18th place, making a pit stop. But here's his teammate Jenson Button, 160 miles an hour then through Copse Corner. Just take us around a lap of Silverstone, Martin.
Well, he crossed the white line there. There's the delineation from the end of the pit lane into Beckett's. He just takes a breather off the throttle. You've got to clip the curbs all the way, and then it just seems to want to head off to Northampton and not turn in. Every car I've ever driven understeers through there, but no problem for Jenson as he diagonals the straight to down to Stowe Corner. You tend to take a very late apex. That means you touch the inside of the corner late on, a long way round it, and straighten the car up as quick as you can over a little blind crest to Vale. Hook the wheels on the inside curve, leave the one on the right, otherwise it'll twist the back away and hurt your traction. And then he's so smooth in the way that he unwinds the steering wheel and applies the throttle pedal, and the heavy braking zone down, 4 gears. And again, the sawtooth curves do give you good grip. Bridge corner, let's see how it's handling. Oh, a little lift on the throttle in race conditions, the tyres beginning to go away. He couldn't stay absolutely flat through there, but nonetheless, almost. Now, the slightly frustrating part, the final long right-hander. We have to be so patient. And listen, he just squeezes the throttle on. He gets less traction control than anybody else as the grid hatchings flash underneath you, and you start to pick up a reference point down to Copse Corner. There it is, a tiny little curb on the inside, a sliver on the outside you can just run along, but you cannot run wide onto. And one more time then into that incredible right-hander of Beckett's.
So 100,000 paying spectators lining the banks and the grandstands, 50,000 people in the corporate boxes. There is John Button enjoying watching his son's handiwork. The smile is no longer on his face. Jenson started on the front row of the grid. He slipped back to 4th. He's under a lot of pressure here this afternoon from particularly Kimi Raikkonen, but also Michael Schumacher as well. But Button is a fighter, and we are just 26 laps from the finish, but an awful lot more racing still to come here at Silverstone. Lap 37 of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. Juan Montoya is leading the Grand Prix, but Alonso took a second out of his lead on the last lap. It's because of traffic. Montoya encountered more traffic through the slow complex. That's the Red Bull you can see there of Klian, Villeneuve and Heidfeld. So he's lost more time to Alonso. It's another second that he's lost to the Renault, who will now encounter this traffic on the faster parts of the racetrack. So Montoya losing ground on the traffic, but Louise Goodman has found Christian Horner of Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on David Coulthard's lap times. He's just starting to pick up the pace, but I mean, he's now 2 seconds a lap faster than he was a couple of laps ago. What's going on there, Christian?
Well, he lost a bit of time being lapped by Montoya and Alonso, but he's got quite a lot of fuel in the car compared with his teammate who'll be coming in very shortly. And, you know, he's sticking with it, and hopefully we can pick up a few more places towards the end of the race.
So bearing in mind the fuel he's got on board, is he delivering the lap times that you would expect?
Yeah, he's sticking with it at the moment. He's suffering with a little imbalance in the car, but he's doing a good job. As I say, he's got quite a bit more fuel in than his teammate at the moment, so hopefully it'll pan out at the last sector of the race.
We've seen his teammate Christian Klian running wide on a couple of occasions. I know you made a change to the car in the first stop. Is he still having problems with it?
Well, Christian, we went with an aggressive first sector because of obviously being compromised running first in qualifying, but again, he's out there, he's attacking. He's had a couple of moments, but that's mainly, I think, due to the fact he's been running pretty close behind Villeneuve. But again, he's sticking with it and hanging in there.
Thanks, Christian.
Christian Horner there, sporting director of Red Bull Racing. And he announced this week that David Coulthard has re-signed for 2006, so that's a great deal on both sides. Coulthard really helping to push that team forward, to give them the big team mentality that he brings with him from all those years at Williams and McLaren. And certainly Horner valuing what Coulthard has achieved. Albers making his pit stop, his second of the afternoon here. Certainly Coulthard has exceeded expectations in that car this year. 17 points on the board, some very strong performances indeed. Still no podium yet, but nevertheless a lot of solid points finishes in that car. Here is, we'll just have a quick look at Alonso. There is the race leader, Juan Montoya, who's responded on this last lap. Now he's got clear of some of the traffic. It's Alonso's turn to encounter Villeneuve, Klian and Heidfeld, and to lose some time as a result.
Jenson Button must now be able to see Kimi Raikkonen in his mirrors along Hangar Straight. He's just 3.5 seconds adrift. Ted has some news for us.
And I tell you what, Martin, they're very worried on the BIR pit wall. I just spoke to Jeff Willis. He says he thinks Jenson can run longer than Kimi at the next stop, but oh my dear, I mean, Kimi's lap over a second a lap. He'll get up to him, but whether he'll be able to overtake him is another matter.
Thanks for that, Ted. Montoya's just done his fastest lap of the race, suggesting he's got a bit of speed in his pocket. He's pulled the gap out now to 4.8 seconds. They're beginning to drop Fisichella slightly in third place. Raikkonen beats that with another new fastest lap of the race. He's now just 2.4 seconds adrift of Jenson Button as Klian, who's on a 3-stopper this afternoon, takes his second scheduled one. So will Jenson have an answer for Kimi when he gets up close?
Well, Kimi certainly is absolutely flying there. You can see it for yourself. Jenson's trying as hard as he can, but this McLaren is supreme around here. The car works very well on the long, fast corners. It's extremely well balanced. Adrian Newey, the boss of the design team there, always very responsive to a rule change, and we've had a big rule change for 2005. He's come up with a super aerodynamic package that really, really works well around tracks like this, and Barcelona and Magny-Cours. It'll go well pretty much everywhere for the rest of the season, giving Raikkonen a chance to challenge, but he's got this 24-point deficit to Alonso. So much work still to do, and he could really do without Alonso running second on the road here. The only consolation for Raikkonen right now is that Montoya is in front of Alonso, taking 2 points out of him, stopping him from getting 10 more World Championship points. He'll really want his teammate to finish up there, but he wants to try and get on terms as well.
Well, Raikkonen, Button's just 9 seconds behind Fisichella, so Raikkonen's still got a chance of a podium. Depends how much, if at all, he loses time behind Jenson. He's now just 1.1 behind. Montoya pushing faster and faster. Alonso desperately trying to respond. The gap, 5.2 seconds now. And it's now a four-way fight for the podium, I believe. Jenson, though, not under any other pressures from behind. Michael Schumacher is 20 seconds adrift of him. Barrichello, who's been hustling in most of the afternoon on a 3-stopper. And then Trulli and Ralf Schumacher having these steady races in the Toyota. So Through traffic then, Jensen obviously nice and easily online there. Kimi getting free run into the corner, and now he's in that dirty air zone again.
Absolutely huge lap by Juan Montoya last time round. 1 minute 20.737. That's half a second faster than the fastest lap we'd seen up to that point, which was set previously by Giancarlo Fisichella when he was pushing hard. Montoya is pushing supremely hard. He's trying to break Alonso now. He's got 5 seconds over him. He is going absolutely... And another new fastest lap, 120.7 flat for Montoya. Stunning performance from the leader, still looking for his first Grand Prix victory of 2005. If you remember, he won on his last outing for Williams in the Brazilian Grand Prix at the end of last season. He's had a rotten season of bad luck, broken shoulder blades, tennis incidents, accidents, and you name it. But here at Silverstone, he is really stretching his legs. There he goes, and he's now got almost 6 seconds lead over Juan Montoya. Fernando Alonso, sorry.
We're homing in for the second stops then, and what he's trying to do now is make sure he's got a cushion if there's any kind of problem with the fuel rig going on or traffic into the pit lane. He just wants to build himself a bit of a margin, and this then is the fight for 4th place. Button versus Raikkonen.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get a good scrap on the track, certainly in terms of pure pit strategy. Raikkonen has the edge. He should be able to leapfrog Button just by staying out a little bit longer than the BAR Honda. There's the scene in the Williams garage. They're doing a back-to-back test here this afternoon. Nick Heidfeld is using the old car, which is the car the team was using up to the French Grand Prix. In the French Grand Prix, you'll recall, Williams were very slow in the race, a real head-scratching weekend for them. So here, this weekend, they decided to put Webber in the new car and compare it with Heidfeld in the old car. And at the moment, you'd have to say that the new car is substantially faster. It's 18 seconds up the road from the old car. We're focusing now on the battle here for 4th place. Raikkonen and Button. Once again, we were talking before about the turbulent air. Raikkonen will start to encounter that now as he gets within 100 metres of the back of Button's car. Those tyres look pretty good on the Williams. It's the older model Williams of Nick Heidfeld, pitted from 12th place.
Yes, I'm afraid the Williams and the Red Bulls are going to have to rely on unreliability of others to score World Championship points today, it seems. Toyota seem to have the last point or two tied up at the moment. The 2 Ferraris, 6th and 7th, but not... I mean, if they go home from here, Ferrari, without solid pace, James, where are they going to be quick? They've dominated here, haven't they, so much. They've had such an impressive package. And, of course, you can say that almost any Grand Prix circuit we go to, but particularly here. And, well, they're really struggling, aren't they? They've not got a solid race pace. Michael Schumacher now on that last lap, 2.8 seconds behind the leaders in terms of pace.
And in terms of time, he's 45 seconds behind Juan Montoya, and we've still got 17 laps of this Grand Prix to go, so it's going to be a minute, isn't it, by the time we get to the end, which is roughly what it was in Magny-Cours last week. A lot of head-scratching at Ferrari after that. Ross Brawn, the technical director, was saying the drivers were pushing the car, but the car was not responding. It's not just the tyres. Certainly, Silverstone has always been a very strong Bridgestone circuit. So, Jenson Button makes a pit stop. That puts Kimi Raikkonen up into 4th place. He'll go longer on the fuel, and it's going to be very difficult for Jenson to resist him now. I think Raikkonen should be able to pit and rejoin in front of Button. That'll put him down to 5th place.
Just got it into 1st gear in time. Almost too chilled out on that pit stop there for Jenson. And as you say, surely Raikkonen's got the pace now to leapfrog him in this stage. You know what else I can see happening? I can see Fisichella getting ahead of Alonso. He's definitely faster now. And then that's going to give Renault a headache, isn't it, in terms of World Championship points for the championship leader.
Yep, he is faster, almost a second faster on that last lap. 3 seconds behind his teammate. Here is Fisichella playing himself into contention. He's been driving very strongly here this afternoon, maintaining the pace of the leaders. Qualified in 6th place on the grid, but he did carry a lot of fuel. He went to lap 25 on his fuel, where teammate Alonso pitted on lap 23. So a number of the cars around Fisichella on the grid were carrying less fuel than him. Into the pits comes race leader Juan Montoya. Well, we saw him really put the hammer down before this stop. There's Mark Webber as well in the new body Williams. Whoa, that was close, wasn't it?
How close was that? That was too close indeed. And through goes Raikkonen then to effectively not take the lead of the Grand Prix because Alonso's leading the race now, followed by Fisichella, but Raikkonen ahead of his teammate, but out of sync in terms of stops.
Yeah, Montoya has stopped twice. Alonso, Fisichella and Raikkonen have only stopped once, so Montoya drops in behind them. Alonso, Fisichella, Raikkonen, your top three at the moment. But Montoya looking very strong indeed here. He had 2.5 seconds in his pocket over Alonso before he made that stop. So we'll see what Alonso does on the fuel. At the moment he's being a little bit held up by his mate and former teammate Jarno Trulli, and losing valuable time here. So if he was going to challenge Montoya by running a little bit longer, this has compromised it.
Yeah, Trulli holding him up quite badly actually now. He's got his own race to run, but when the leaders come up to lap you, you have to get out of the way. And Alonso really getting scruffy and slightly ragged. We saw this, didn't we, at the Canadian Grand Prix when Alonso was impeded, he thought, then by his teammate, and his head just went slightly jelly-like at that moment. He's got to straighten it up, and Trulli should be getting... look, he went way too deep in the corner, locked the front brake, ran wide, will pick up a bit of dirt on the tyres, it'll compromise him then, and finally Trulli gets out of the way, but the gap to his teammate down to 1.4 seconds.
Exactly. Fisichella has really taken advantage of that. You could see him closing in on Trulli as Kimi Raikkonen comes in for his second stop from 4th place. Ted Kravitz.
This is going to be close with Jenson Button, but I think the Button's actually been held up by some traffic, so Kimi should be able to take this one easily. Good stop by the McLaren boys, but where's Jenson?
Well, good question, Ted. Jenson is now just coming out of Woodcote corner, so Kimi's got the length of the pit straight over him, so that worked extremely effectively. Button, a combination of not quite having the pace of the McLaren and also encountering traffic, meant that Raikkonen, as we predicted, was able to leapfrog Button for that 4th place. Here for the 3rd time this afternoon then into the pits, a strategy that has not worked at all for Rubens Barrichello. He started in front of his teammate Michael Schumacher. He now pits and drops further back behind Schumacher. Schumacher was 6th, Barrichello 7th before this stop.
Yes. Fisichella closed the gap down to 1.4 to his teammate, but he's so far 4/10 slower on this lap. Alonso's had to stand on the gas a little bit, otherwise he's in great danger of being passed by his teammate, because as then Fisichella pits earlier than Alonso this time around. He was, as you said, 2 laps later last time. They short have filled him, and that's taken a little bit of the pressure off Alonso, no doubt about it.
Oh, he stalled it!
No! Fizzy, how does that happen? It happened last weekend. It should have an anti-stall mechanism on it. It should not be able to do that. And that's the 2nd successive weekend where it's compromised him heavily.
And that's going to put Raikkonen on the podium, is it? Raikkonen's coming down the main straight now. There's Fisichella. That's a very, very costly mistake for Giancarlo Fisichella. Oh dear, all the hard work, all the graft of 45 laps, and the net result is that Raikkonen, who has already made, we saw his 2nd stop of the afternoon, pinches 3rd place away from Giancarlo Fisichella. Raikkonen then heading for the podium. Michael Schumacher makes his 2nd stop of the afternoon. He should be able to rejoin in front of Rubens Barrichello. So Barrichello, who qualified in front of Michael Schumacher, Barrichello was 5th, Michael Schumacher was 9th. Barrichello's managed to get himself passed by Michael Schumacher by having the wrong strategy. That's what happens when you start in front but you've got the wrong strategy. Michael comes out in front.
Explains why Rubens looked so handy at the beginning of the race too, doesn't it? Quite a bit lighter. So Fisichella's heavily compromised there with that stalled situation. The system shouldn't allow that to happen, but for whatever reason it's not happening on the sister car, and Alonso pumping in some hot laps now. He's 18.6 seconds ahead of Montoya, but he's got to make another stop. It'll be a very short stop. Surely Montoya's got enough to take his 1st victory for McLaren.
It would have been close if Alonso hadn't got held up behind Trulli, as we saw in the complex a couple of laps ago. His pace has been tremendous in this period. He's about a second a lap faster than Montoya, who's carrying more fuel. This is the period where you need to put the hammer down. He had the laps to do it, he had the pace to do it, but he got held up, and it's going to be quite close between the two of them. This is the scrap then, a little bit further down the field. Mark Webber in the BMW Williams in 11th place. David Coulthard is in 12th place, and well, Webber and Williams due to tell BMW what their engine plans are for next year, or whether or not they want BMW to be their engine supplier within the next couple of weeks. That situation quite fluid as the Toyota of Ralf Schumacher exits the pits. He was 6th before that stop. Certainly Cosworth and Toyota and Honda, all options for Williams.
Coulthard's through. Coulthard passed Webber, but he's got to stop.
For that stop. Certainly Cosworth and Toyota and Honda, all options for Williams.
Coulthard's through. Coulthard passed Webber, but he's got to stop. He's made one stop. Webber's made 2. Coulthard with a lot of pace at this stage of the Grand Prix, but I still don't think they're going to score any World Championship points this afternoon. Alonso's lead up to 19 seconds over Montoya now.
Coulthard dives into the pits. This is how he did it.
Ooh, that looked a bit touch and go, didn't it? But a wall of death around the outside, and got away with it. But I think that in reality Webber knew that wasn't absolutely for position as DC makes his second and final stop.
From 12th place then, David Coulthard. Neat and tidy, very, very short stop. That gives you an indication of how short Alonso's stop is going to be when he makes it. That's all the fuel you need to get to the finish now, around 5 or 6 seconds. What is the margin now? 19 seconds Alonso has as Coulthard rejoins in front of Villeneuve. That's 12th place.
Yeah. Villeneuve then, we saw these two fighting earlier on in the Grand Prix. They have very similar speed. Villeneuve, you have to say, has driven very well this weekend and had good pace, good genuine pace. Alonso pits from the lead. He had a 19-second lead. It would have been about 19.4 given this first 2 sectors of this lap. And he's now got to have a short fill and get out of the pit lane. Surely Montoya's got enough of an advantage. That is a short fill. Look at that, 4.9 seconds. This is going to be nip and tuck.
Certainly is. Montoya crosses the start-finish line now. There he is on the right of your screen, but he's going to nip through, no problem at all. It's nothing like as close as it was first time round. And you could see that Alonso had the laps to do it, but he got held up by traffic, particularly Jarno Trulli, and that's cost him the chance of victory today. Mind you, if you'd asked Alonso earlier in the weekend what he thought his chances of beating the McLarens here were, he'd have said pretty slim. The fact that he's given it such a good run here this afternoon is a huge credit to him. It's been a wonderful scrap between the two of them. It's not over yet, though. 11 laps still to go. Alonso then drops in behind Montoya. Montoya leading on lap 50. Alonso second. Raikkonen looking for a podium in third. Fisichella fourth. Button is 5th, 10 seconds behind Giancarlo Fisichella, and then it's Michael Schumacher in 6th. Through to the finish then here at the British Grand Prix, just 9 laps to go. It's been battles all the way through the field all afternoon here. Juan Montoya off the start line, starting third on the grid, managed to pass Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso dramatically into turn 1. We had a safety car though at the beginning for Takuma Sato, who stalled before the start of the Grand Prix, had to push his car away, and the safety car was deployed just for a lap, but once they resumed, once again Montoya and Alonso had a tremendous struggle. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen were delayed behind Jarno Trulli. That really cost Raikkonen any chance of a victory here this afternoon. He is on target for a podium though. He's third at the moment, behind Montoya, leading Alonso in second place. You're looking at the battle between Heidfeld and Coulthard. The Red Bulls, the Saubers and the Williams have been duking it out really for the places outside the top 10 all afternoon. Jenson Button's been a factor. He was running third earlier on, but he got jumped at the first round of pit stops by the Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella, and then more recently he's been jumped by Kimi Raikkonen. So Button is lapping in 5th place at the moment. Fisichella could have got the podium. He had Raikkonen behind him looking comfortable, but then at his second stop he stalled it on the way out, and that cost Fisichella the chance of the podium. At times when it's really mattered and he's needed the speed, Montoya has had it. He's dug deep and found the speed, but he was vulnerable just around the time of the second stops. Alonso had the opportunity to take the victory, but unfortunately for him, on the couple of laps he had extra on the field, he wasn't able to do the lap times he needed because he got held up behind Jarno Trulli in particular, and that cost him.
Takuma Sato making his way back through the field, and that could even have been for position actually. In fact, it was, because he's also 2 laps down after that initial problem, not starting the Grand Prix properly. But the quality in depth, there's only 20 cars out there, but you know, you've got a Williams there. There's not a Williams in the top 10, but they're going pretty well. Webber's 11th, Heidfeld 12th, Coulthard 13th, and Villeneuve 14th, Klein 15th. Good drivers in good cars, and they can't break into the top 10. But what we've got at the moment is two McLarens, first and third, being gently caught, but only by fractions, by two Renaults in second and fourth. It's very even, Stevens. The gap 1.1, Montoya to Alonso, 2.1. Third place man Raikkonen down to Fisichella. Button falling off the back of that. They've got to find better race pace. I think Jensen told us he wasn't going to win this Grand Prix. I think he just put in a brilliant qualifying performance and maybe raised our hopes a little bit, because it was a great lap and he had got proper race fuel on board, but he's not had the raw pace during the Grand Prix.
Only one retirement of the race so far, Narain Karzakheyan, fairly early on. We saw him, we thought both Jordans had retired, but Montero is going strongly, heading for his 11th consecutive race finish. What a rookie season the Portuguese driver is having. We're riding on board with David Coulthard in 13th place, Nick Heidfeld in front of us in the Williams. Down to Stowe Corner. How are the tyres coping with the onslaught? New rules for 2005, they have to qualify on a set of tyres and use the same tyres, not just for the start of the race, but for the whole of the race. It's made for some dramatic conclusions to Grand Prix as different tyre wear situations have gone on. Alonso, though, look at this, he's responding. He knows there's just 6 laps to go. He could quite easily settle for second place here this afternoon, knowing that Raikkonen is going to score 2 points less than him in third place. Where is Raikkonen? Well, it's the length of the Hangar Straight, the margin that these two have over Kimi Raikkonen. It's actually on a stopwatch, 16 seconds. But it looks to me, Martin, as though Alonso fancies a crack at Juan Montoya.
Yeah, Raikkonen 17 seconds adrift. Remember, there was a time when he was 30 seconds adrift of the lead of this Grand Prix. So it shows you the pace he's had through the middle part of the race. But I think he's pretty much given up now on chasing down Alonso and settling for third. Maybe he's hoping Alonso will catch his teammate and they'll trip over each other, but he's given up now. He was catching Alonso quite quickly, but it would have been, I don't think, enough laps left. Ted has some news.
Absolutely, and I've been into Renault and they fancy their chances here. They want to push Juan Montoya as far as he can go. They've seen what's happened to McLaren in the past when they've done that. Of course, that was at the Nürburgring when Kimi had a flat spot. No problems here, but Renault still fancy their chances, and they're also telling Fisichella to try and get a move on. They say if Alonso can be this quick, so can you, Fisi.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's not at the moment, he's dropping back. Fisichella falling away slightly from Raikkonen, but as you say, Ted, Alonso will not give up, will he? He's not thinking about his World Championship lead, is he? He is hustling.
I love this kid. I absolutely love him. I love his sense of style. I love his intelligence. I love the way he carries himself around the paddock. And what most of all, Martin, I love about him, he is a racer. He's pure thoroughbred racer, isn't he? He just loves it, and he goes for it at every available opportunity.
Yeah, big armful of lock there to get it across the curves. Short shifting to try to get better traction, but Montoya has the measure of him, doesn't he, really, up there. And let's see. Montoya did a 21.7, Alonso 22.0 that time. Raikkonen and Fisichella both well into the 1 minute 21. So maybe Fisi hasn't given up. Maybe they has just received the message. You've got to get on with it. You've both got a chance of pushing and pressurising the McLarens into a mistake. Remembering, of course, they want to keep these engines for Hockenheim too, don't they? Truly out there in the Toyota, unusually, kept his engine for a third race. Of course, they didn't race in Indianapolis, so it's kind of a little bit false, but he wants a fresh one for next week, for the next Grand Prix in Hockenheim.
Interesting tactic, maybe explaining a little bit of why Trulli isn't quite on the pace here this afternoon. He's certainly held 1 or 2 people up, and he's lost track position to his teammate. Trulli qualified 4th, Ralf Schumacher qualified 8th, but they are running 8th and 9th on the road, so Ralf Schumacher's got in front of him here this afternoon. Maybe a little bit of the reason why Trulli is in the shape he's in is because this engine has done 3 races. Well, Alonso went into this Grand Prix 24 points clear of Kimi Raikkonen. He looks like he's going to add another 2 points to that here this afternoon. Look at the helicopters displayed there in the middle of the field. It's the busiest airport in Britain on race day. Everybody comes in by helicopter, all the corporate guests and the high rollers, a lot of celebrities here, including Sami Hyypiä, centre-back for Liverpool Football Club, and Arsene Wenger from Arsenal, and Ellen MacArthur, who Martin spoke to on the grid. It attracts a lot of celebrities. Politicians have poured in as well. Quite a few of the cabinet are here this afternoon supporting British motorsport, which is good to see. There's Kimi Raikkonen heading for a podium once again, but I'm sure a lot of frustration for him, Martin. It just seems to be that this car is the car to beat in Formula One, and yet when you go racing with it from Friday morning to Sunday afternoon, it's just not working out for him, is it? Week after week, in the way championships are supposed to come together when you've got the right package.
It's odd. If you look at the discipline and the cleanliness and the presentation of the McLaren team, they look like the last people who were the last team in the paddock that would have reliability problems. But you know, man, if they just stress it out a little more, if they push it a little harder, push the limits. But if a car's going to fail, you kind of think it's going to be the McLaren before the Renault somehow.
Yeah, certainly looks like it. Renault go racing in a very tactical and astute way. Pat Simmons, a very serious and experienced engineer, was Michael Schumacher's race engineer back in the good old Benetton days when Schumacher won 2 world titles. He certainly knows a thing or two about going racing. They've got very clever people back at the factory, Bob Bell, Dino Tozo, making this car fly. But the McLaren is the faster car at the moment, and yet its point man is 26 points behind the Renault driver. But here today, this afternoon, it looks like it will be a McLaren victory, and it'll be, for once, Juan Montoya who's going to take it. Started third on the grid here this afternoon. He's got just 3 laps to go to claim his first victory of the season. Quick word then from Sporting Director of BAR Honda, Gilles de Ferran. Well, Gilles, you were jumped by Raikkonen. Jenson Button was jumped by Raikkonen as we feared, and it just seems you need a little bit more pace in this BAR on race day.
No, absolutely. I think we need a little bit more speed, and I think today's 5th is as good as we could have.
Takuma's had good pace, hasn't he? Although he's not obviously going to show we're losing a lap, he's actually had very solid pace back there.
No, absolutely. It's unfortunate that we lost a lap with the car stalling on the grid, but he's been going fast throughout the race. So it looks like both cars were fairly consistent throughout the race. Jenson have been driving very consistent, very fast throughout the race. We just need a little bit more pace to catch the Renault and the McLaren.
Thanks very much indeed, Gilles. We look forward to Jenson Button, Takuma Sato and BAR Honda challenging for victories in the second half of this Formula One Championship. Certainly, Martin, the picture I saw when I went to Jerez in early February for the winter testing was McLaren and Renault, the fastest cars. Looked like BAR were not quite there as they had been last year. Looked like Ferrari was struggling. Looked like Williams were really struggling for pace. Red Bull looked like they could spring a few surprises. Toyota were a little bit quicker than people expected. And here we are 11 races into the World Championship. That picture is still the picture of Formula One. It's been an incredible development race, and yet they've all basically moved relative to each other at the same pace.
One thing bothers me about today, though, we've talked about it all year, how difficult it is to follow the other cars under these 05 regulations. The drivers have been bitching about it since day one of the season. And at this track, we have seen a lot of overtaking in recent years, and today it couldn't and hasn't happened other than in the pit lane. They've got to really consider what they're doing for 06 with these cars to find a way to enable them to travel much more closely together. There was a long camera angle there. I hope it wasn't Alonso beginning to slow at the back of the field there. He's certainly dropping away now from Montoya, but of course not very far to go.
Yeah, this is the last lap for Juan Montoya. It's been a splendid performance by him and by Fernando Alonso as well. They've really fought each other tooth and nail for the victory here. It could have gone either way at several points in this Grand Prix, but you can hear the air horns now starting to blow. Montoya is within a mile of the finish line. He's within a mile of his first victory of the 2005 World Championship. After 75 starts in Formula One, he's not won as many as he should have done. He'll be the first to admit that. This is going to be only his 5th career victory, but it's been a terrific one, and what a place to do it on McLaren home soil. Juan Montoya wins the British Grand Prix! And there is Alonso to finish second, take another crucial 8 World Championship points. Kimi Raikkonen could come across the line any moment now in 3rd place, having fought his way up from 12th on the grid. A tremendous effort, but that early laps were crucial, as we knew they would be. Fisichella, but for that stall in his pit stop, would have been on the podium.
Kimi making a big point on the final lap, not quite sure what the point is. He goes a second a lap faster than anybody else has done in this Grand Prix. 120.5 would have put him right at the front of the grid. He had an incredible amount of performances. Button comes over the line in 5th place. Fisichella's already finished in 4th. What's the message there from Raikkonen He finished just 14 seconds away from Montoya, but what a final lap. The Ferraris then are going to come home in 6th and 7th. They've got to go and find some speed from somewhere. It's not happening.
It certainly isn't. Michael Schumacher yet to cross the start-finish line, but he was 72 seconds behind Montoya at the start of the last lap. That's an awful lot to give away. And, well, Juan Montoya's got his first victory, and no one, Louise Goodman, will be happier about that than his devoted, loving wife, mother to his son Sebastian, Connie Montoya.
You are absolutely right, James. I'm with Connie now. Connie, you must be one very, very happy lady.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, the team deserves it, Juan deserves it, and yeah. I don't have words, really.
He really has just been the class of the field today, hasn't he? It was touch and go at times with Alonso, though. Were you getting a bit nervous for him?
No, I was drinking a little bit of wine, relaxing, but no, I think Juan is a great driver. He has a great car, and I think it was time he got it, so he deserves it.
We're very happy for him. I see you got little baby Sebastian in your arms here.
First podium, so...
Did he sleep through that one, or did he pay any attention?
No, he was paying attention sometimes, and others not.
Thanks for talking to us, Connie. Go out and enjoy the victory.
Well, not only the first victory of the season for Montoya, Martin, but the first time he stood on the podium, which shows you what kind of a topsy-turvy year he's had. Early part of the season, finished 6th in Australia, 4th in Malaysia. Then came the injury, however sustained, whether it was a tennis accident or, as some suspected, falling off a motorbike, who knows. But it put him out at a crucial phase when McLaren brought this development package onto the car. New engine, much, much more powerful engine from Mercedes, new bodywork, new steering, new suspension. And Raikkonen took all the benefit from that, going on a winning streak in Spain, in Monaco, and also in Montreal. Montoya could have had victory in Montreal. It was taken away from him by a pit mix-up with the McLaren team. But here at Silverstone, the track he knows well from his British Formula 3 days where he spent his apprenticeship, he's got his race victory. You can see the two Williams finishing outside the top 10. Coulthard, two-time winners of this Grand Prix, Coulthard and Villeneuve, unable to make a deeper impression on the race than 13th and 14th. And Montoya is the winner.
I wonder why Raikkonen, he obviously must turn to the revs up a little bit on the last lap and to put that lap time in. And just wondering why he took the trouble to do that, really. Maybe that's him sending a message to the team, or sending probably more likely actually, sending a message to Juan Pablo Montoya of, hey, don't worry, I had the speed if I only had the grid slot and didn't have the engine problem. Raikkonen on the podium then, just losing a further 2 World Championship points to Alonso, but it's 26 it's up to now. Ralf Schumacher moves up to 9. Webber didn't score any points, he stays just ahead of Coulthard there. Moves down to 11th and still obviously a long way ahead of Button, who's only just started scoring points.
Now, it's that time of the day as Jenson Button makes his way through and collects the applause of the crowd. There's the designer of the McLaren, the chief of the technical team, Adrian Newey. How many races and world championships has he won with Williams and McLaren over the years? Renault break through the 100 barrier in the Constructors' Championship. It's been a wonderful season for them so far. It's that time of the day, Martin, where we've got to consider who the driver of the Don't look at me like that. I know you always get into trouble from everybody you don't choose in the paddock. Come up to you the next race and say, why didn't you pick me? But I mean,
it's their deputation to come and poke me in the chest. But on a number of occasions now, and it's only my opinion, is me, what I think is my gut reaction to the day. Montoya, his first win for McLaren, a very, very good drive. But you have to say, Raikkonen finished just 14 seconds adrift. We know Montoya was hustled all the way by Alonso, so that was pretty much his speed. And that means Raikkonen took best part of quarter of a minute out of them, despite being disadvantaged in the traffic. So it goes to Raikkonen for me.
Onto the podium comes the winner. rings out loud and true over Silverstone. It's been a week of darkness and tragedy for many, joy as well. With the news that we got the Olympics here in Britain in 2012. Juan Montoya collects his trophy. Formula One decided to put a spectacle on here, observing a minute's silence for the victims of the bombings in London before the race. Putting on a great show here this afternoon, just showing that the UK can certainly post a world-class event, no problem. Adrian Newey knows how to build a world-class Formula One car, no problem. And that 3 of the finest drivers in the world have entertained us royally.
I don't think Fernando will be too unhappy. Flavio looking suave and sophisticated, sublime there as ever. But I think they'll be moderately satisfied with that, actually, in terms of they didn't expect to win here. So to be ahead of Kimi, for whatever reason, is a major result. John Grant there, chairman of the Motorsport Association.
We have a cabinet meeting on that podium. There's so many politicians up there. No champagne, of course, as a mark of respect for the victims of the London bombing. Well, a wonderful race. And we will have a short break now. Oh, is the champagne? No, they're not going to. Just going to take it with them. No spraying of it. Montoya just remembering the etiquette agreed before the race. Thank you very much, guys, for a wonderful afternoon's entertainment. We're going to have a short rest now before the back-to-backs of Hockenheim and Budapest, and the second half of the Formula One World Championship, which will continue, I've no doubt, to be just as hot as it was today at Silverstone.
Let's hope so. Thank you, James Allen. And thanks to Martin Brundle as well. We will be right back to conclude our coverage of the Foster's British Grand Prix. You are back with us at Silverstone. Just to tell you that ITV Sport are host broadcasters for the British Grand Prix this afternoon. I feel very proud of the efforts of director Keith Mackenzie and his team. Let's just confirm the result. Juan Pablo Montoya, 10 out of 10. Juan, the man, this afternoon. Alonso, World Championship leader second. Then Raikkonen. What would have happened if he hadn't been demoted those 10 places down the grid? No prizes for getting that. Fisichella, super drive again from Fisichella in the Renault. What a shame about that pit stop. Jenson Button, just not enough pace to get on the podium. Fifth will do fine. Remember, he got his first points of the season last weekend. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, if truth be told, nowhere near the sharp end. Ralf Schumacher scoring the final point for Toyota. And this is how the Drivers' Championship looks after 11 rounds. 77 plays 51, a 26-point gap then. Michael Schumacher, an increasingly distant third. Rubens Barrichello, fourth. Trulli and Montoya improving his position with that 10 today. Of course, Fisichella a scorer. Heidfeld and Webber a miserable weekend really for Williams. Let us go straight to the press conference.
Well, Juan Pablo, a great qualifying lap, first of all, to get you right up there, and then an amazing first corner for you on the outside of Fernando.
Yeah, you know, yesterday in qualifying, being one of the first few cars to run is just really hard. And even like that, we managed, I think we had the potential to do a good lap, and we did. And I think that where the race was won. You know, I had a good start, and I knew Fernando couldn't risk too much, and I was willing to risk a bit more, and it really paid off. I think that's where the race was won, because in the first part of the race, the car was really oversteering and I couldn't push it too much. So I decided just to look more after the tires and wait for the stop, because if you kill the tires, the race would be over. But, you know, I think the team did a great strategy. They called me a lap early, and, you know, Fernando got some traffic as expected, and it was just, but it was, you know, it's enough.
But it was very close between you two guys. A lot of pressure for you throughout the race, no mistake. You have the edge in sectors 2 and 3, Fernando always matching you through sector 1.
I don't know, the car in the first sector, turn 1 was quite oversteery, and I had big moments at the beginning of the race going into Beckett's. And I know when you lose it there, you not only lose it, but you have a big shunt. And, you know, it's to lose half a tenth, it wasn't worth it. You know, we knew the car was quick. And I think when I had to push to open the gap, it paid off. You know, it was just enough, and I think Fernando had a bit of traffic that helped. But
well, just enough just after that first pit stop as well, side by side with Fernando going into Beckett's again.
Yeah, it was good. You know, I think it's great racing, and, you know, I want to thank everybody in McLaren and Mercedes. You know, I went to Mercedes Performance Engines on Thursday and visited them, and they said, oh, we got, you know, this engine for you, and, you know, hopefully you win the race with this engine and everything, and to give the win to all the guys is amazing.
Congratulations, a great win. Fernando, it was very, very close. What was the deciding factor? Traffic, perhaps that fuel load on the second stint?
Well, it was very, very close between Juan Pablo and me. I think the first pit stop, we put a lot of fuel on board, obviously, to go very long in the second stint. And even with that, I nearly overtake Juan Pablo in the first stop. So with a normal strategy, I should come in front of him in the first stop. But I think the strategy at that time was good. I keep more or less the 3 seconds gap with Juan Pablo in the second stint. And these 4 or 5 laps longer that I was in the second stint should help me and to win the race. But unfortunately, I have some traffic there. And the blue flags didn't work at all this race, so I think I lost 3 seconds, I think, with Jarno, and obviously it was not his fault because there were not blue flags at all, so he didn't know probably that I was fighting for the victory at that time.
And it looked pretty close going into that last stint as well. You were within 1 second of Juan Pablo, and then in the last closing laps of the race, he managed to pull away.
Yeah, I tried after the second stop to push a little bit him. But I think it was really difficult to overtake. I knew what was the pace of Juan Pablo and me, very similar, because all the first stint I was with him. So, you know, the last 3 or 4 laps, Kimi was quite far away, so I just relaxed and keep the second place that for us is a dream come true here in Silverstone.
Particularly, I guess, with Juan Pablo taking some points away from Kimi in that sense, but congratulations. Switching to you, Kimi, a fantastic drive from you up from the midfield, setting fastest lap on your last lap of the race, trying all the way, but obviously lost a lot of time early on behind Michael and Jarno.
Yeah, I think so. This year the cars are very difficult to follow on the fast corners, and I was quite a bit quicker than they were, but I got close on the end of the back straight, but I was never able to really follow close enough through the fast corners, so I knew that it was difficult to get anywhere after that, but at least we got the podium, so it's a good results for the team. So could have been better, but this is what we got this time.
I suppose you would have liked a few more blue flags as well for the traffic in front of you. What was the traffic like from your point of view?
Yeah, a few times, but I guess there were more important things to do on that time. And then it's sometimes difficult to marshals to see always, or the race control to see everybody, so it is what it is.
Just to reiterate, obviously very bad luck for you having to take that grid penalty because of that engine change, but no doubt about the speed of the McLaren Mercedes today.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, I think so. Would have been quite a bit different results, but like I said, there's nothing what I can do. I can just try my best, and hopefully the team will sort out the rest, and we don't need to start 10 places back anymore.
Just need to